Am I the a-hole for telling my mother she is the reason why I don't want a relationship with my siblings? I, 30 male, have 3 younger half-siblings through my mom. Because my mom had primary custody, I grew up with them and I was miserable because my mom has the siblings always share mentality and I would be punished if I didn't want to. This was mainly an issue because only 2 of us have the same father, and whenever each of dads gave us something and the others wanted it, we would be expected to share. And because my dad was the most active in being a parent and had more money, my siblings always went after my stuff, sometimes without even asking, and I could never do anything about it without getting punished. There were times I didn't even get to play or use the things that my dad gave me because it wasn't my turn, and if my siblings broke or damaged it, my mom would shrug it off because things happen, and to just tell my dad to buy me a new one. This made me so angry, because not only did I feel like I could never have anything nice for myself, but my dad couldn't always afford to get me a replacement. He had more money than the other dads, but he wasn't rich. I remember being my happiest when I was with my dad and wanted to stay, but because he lived in another state and had a crazy work schedule, I could only be with him in the summers. Not only that, but I was made to feel bad if I ever voiced my displeasure living with my mom, because she was a single mom trying her best, and I was always provided for and never physically harmed, so I should just be grateful. It wasn't until I was 16 that my dad became fully established enough in his career that he was able to have a more flexible schedule, and was even able to move closer to me. He said that I was now at an age where I could decide, and said that he would welcome me with open arms. So when I went to visit him during a long weekend, I just never went back. It wasn't necessarily planned and my mom was upset, but I just didn't want to go back and my dad didn't make me. After that, I've been in low contact with my maternal side, only really seeing them on Thanksgiving, and for years, they swore my dad turned me against them. One day, my mom was complaining about how low down my father was, and something in me broke. I told her that my dad may not have been perfect, but he was the better parent because he respected my autonomy, and that it was her fault I didn't care about having a relationship with her other kids, while I'm close to my older sister through my dad. Now I'm getting chewed out. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. A woman who failed to ensure her kids respected each other's boundaries is complaining that the kid who was regularly on the losing end has set up a boundary? It's not surprising. Not the a-hole. This is so beautifully and eloquently put. I have nothing to add except my appreciation for the sentence. Not the a-hole. She attacked your father, a figure you respect, and you defended him and turned the attack on her. If she did not want her poor parenting brought up, she should not have attacked another parent. The funny thing is, in some divorces that have been bitter, the more bitter one, the one who happily badmouths the other will put a clause in the custody or divorce agreement that prevents their ex from saying a bad word about them to their kids. Not the a-hole. The thing is, when kids are forced to share, they usually start to resent the idea. But if kids are left to themselves, they usually end up just sharing what they have naturally. I don't remember my mom forcing me or my sister or brother to share their toys with me. We'd have a few toys that were ours, and we could play alone. But that usually got boring, so we'd find a sibling and they'd join in. My brother had a huge set of Lego, so when I brought that out, we'd all work together to build a town or some racetrack. We never had to share our bikes and had to ask the other sibling if a friend could use it. So I don't have big issues with sharing things if I left to my own devices. I was a nanny for several years and used the same method. And 9 out of 10 times the kids would start out playing alone, then end up playing together with most toys. Me and my brothers had limited time allowed to play video games. We all naturally gravitated towards multiplayer games because if I used my time to play with them and they used theirs to play with me, we wound up getting to play 3 times as long. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom I won't be at her wedding? 18 months ago, my dad died, and then 9-ish months ago my mom and my uncle, Dad's brother, started dating each other. I, 17 female, will be 18 when they get married, and I decided pretty much from the start of their relationship that I wouldn't play a part in it. My older sisters both refuse to speak to our mom or uncle anymore, and they won't be going to the wedding either. But since I'm still technically a minor now, my mom thinks she can still make me go. She either doesn't remember that I will have already turned 18 when the wedding happens, or she just doesn't care. Either way, she keeps trying to engage with me on the wedding, has cried over Mom and my sister's lack of involvement, and how she hates being punished for being happy, how Dad would want this for her. My oldest sister told her Dad would be disgusted that his own brother and wife were shacking up. Our dad find that kind of relationship weird, and we knew that for a long time. He was a vocal commenter when watching a movie or TV series. I think it's both knowing that my dad would hate it, knowing my mom has admitted to have feelings for my uncle when she was married to my dad, and the fact it has happened so fast that just makes it feel so disrespectful. I suspect my uncle had feelings for my mom long before this too, but he would never confirm that. So anyway, mom was bringing it up, and 3 nights ago I was like, screw this. She gets to hear again that I won't be there, and I would never be there. It turned into a fight, and she told me that she deserves better. My grandparents got involved because my mom told them about it, and they said I am a disrespectful little ungrateful brat. That mom deserves happiness, and no matter how less time it took, my dad is dead, and his memory is not more important than the wants/needs/feelings of the living. Am I the a-hole? Not an a-hole. Buy the happy couple a copy of Hamlet and ask them if they're sure they want you involved. To be at the wedding or not to be at the wedding? That is the question. And the answer is no. Buzz off. Not an a-hole. The ick factor is high here. Were they having a relationship behind your dad's back? Not your circus, not your monkeys. Go have a lovely day out with your sisters on their big day. It definitely sounds like it. And the last sentence feels very much like the grandparents knew and felt she would be happier with your uncle rather than your dad. His memory is not more important than the wants/needs/feelings of the living. How about the wants/needs/feelings of their very much living grandchildren? I really hate your grandparents just reading this. You are grieving the loss of your father, and they're insulting you for perfectly understandable feelings. What horrid people they must be to not see or care about your pain. Your mother is entitled to find love and happiness again, yes. You and your sisters are equally entitled to have complicated feelings, need more time, and be flat out angry about the particular way your mom has moved forward with her life. Not to mention be upset that your mom is trying to bully and guilt you into suppressing your own emotions. Are your sisters in a position where you could move in with them? Or any other sane relatives? I think you need a plan for leaving your mom's house. Not stay home. Not stay home. Can you live with your sisters? I wish. In a couple of months, I would probably pack up and move to my oldest sister's. I want to wait until mom can't do much about it though, since my sister is a recent college graduate and she doesn't need my mom hauling her to court over custody matters. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for getting upset and asking my mom to pick me up? This happened last Friday night when I, 14 female, went to my dad's for visitation. My dad lives with his wife and my stepbrother who is my age, and my half-brother. We each have our own bedrooms, but I have learned that I can't really keep anything over there because it just disappears. Even hygiene products or extra pair of underwear disappear. I don't know what happens to them. No one ever seems to know, but they get mad when I get mad that stuff I take is gone. I hate going over there because their house is always freezing cold. Even in the summer, my dad has the AC cranked. I told my mom this a few weeks ago, and she gave me an extra blanket to put on my bed at my dad's, and I hid it in my overnight bag. She just told me to make my bed there like normal, and no one would even notice it was on there and it wouldn't be bothered. Last Friday night, I got to my dad's, and when it was time to go to bed, the blanket was gone. I asked where it went, and my dad said my stepbrother was cold a few nights before, and took it off my bed to give to him. I was so mad. I said that I'm tired of never feeling like I am at home there because I can't have anything that belongs to me. My dad said, "You are a selfish brat, and in this family, we share." But he went and got the blanket from my stepbrother's room, and it was really gross. Like body fluids gross. I'm not stupid. I know it was on there. I was even more mad, and my dad just said to wash it and get over it. But it was like 11 p.m., and I had a soccer tournament the next morning early, so I didn't want to stay up and wash it, or lay awake shivering all night. My dad and stepmom went to bed, so I called my mom, told her what happened, and she picked me up. My dad didn't even notice I was gone until 2 the next afternoon, when he called yelling at me for leaving because he needed a babysitter for my baby half-brother. I told this to my friends, and half thinks I am the a-hole for leaving and getting mad over a blanket, while the other half thinks I'm not the a-hole. For what it's worth, I did leave a note. My dad didn't read it, and the visitation is not a formal legal agreement. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You should be able to expect a reasonable amount of privacy at your dad's. No wonder you don't like going over there if you can't have a basic level of respect. If your dad was so concerned about your stepbrother, you should have given him a blanket off his bed. That is what parents do. especially if kids are cold because of their decision to keep the AC up. Your dad owes you an apology, and a lock on your door which only you have the key to. Especially if you can't even keep underwear over there without them going missing. As a mom, I don't even want to imagine WTF is happening to them. Yeah, the underwear part really bothers me as well. To me, it says run away screaming. Not today home. The whole post was a clear not today home, because you should be able to feel welcome at your home, and that right was taken away by your possessions being stolen. Your dad was being a nahal by claiming in this family we share, which is obviously a one-sided concept. And to top it all off, he admits that he was going to force you to babysit, displaying his true ulterior motives. Glad you're back with your mom now. The reason why the visitation is informal in the first place is because he hasn't really been very involved in my life until he remarried, and his wife wants a big happy family, and he wants a babysitter. Up until a year ago, I was mostly spending every other weekend with his parents who actually do want to spend time with me. Not stay home. Your underwear goes missing and your stepbrother whacked off into your blanket? That's creepy. And when you complain about it, you are the problem. Something is not right in that house. Don't leave anything there ever. And I wouldn't want you to be alone with a stepbrother, frankly. That your dad sees no problem here is also a problem. You are not the a-hole. I avoid my stepbrother at all costs. Him and his friend accidentally walked in on me showering one day, and I know I locked the bathroom door because it makes my skin crawl. But when I went to my dad and stepmom about it, they got mad at me for calling my stepbrother a perv, and said I must not have locked the door, and it's natural to be curious anyway. But it clearly wasn't an accident if he pulled back the curtain, so they try to frame it as a prank. Okay, sure. Really funny. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my stepson out to his mother's? My first husband died when my biological son, 14 male Chris, was 7. I kept a box of precious mementos including his class ring that I gave to Chris. It means a lot to him, and he always wears it on a necklace, only taking it off at night to sleep. I eventually remarried when Chris was 10 to his stepdad, Martin, and he gained a brother, Torin, 16 male. Martin has joint custody with his ex, but Torin spent more time with us after the marriage. Now, me and Torin don't have the best relationship. Try as I might, he's never taken to me and has never liked me, and has told me to my face that I can't replace his mom, and sometimes he's rude to me. Things aren't that great between him and Chris either, as they are always arguing and Torin likes to pick on Chris. There's also been a few times Torin was supposed to make sure Chris got home from football practice, but instead forgot and left Chris stranded without telling anyone, and he's been forced to walk home a few times because of it. Luckily, we don't live too far from the school, but it's still almost an hour-and-a-half walk. A lot of times, Martin lets these things slide and tells me it's just a normal brother's thing, or that Torin is still getting used to me. And I usually leave it alone, until recently. In the last week, Chris lost his dad's ring. We looked for it everywhere and couldn't find it. Chris has been in literal tears since he lost it. Today after school, Torin and his boyfriend were hanging out outside and it was getting late. So I went outside to tell him it was time for his boyfriend to go home. Torin looked shocked when I came outside, and I immediately noticed why, because Torin's boyfriend was wearing my late husband's ring. Torin has apparently stolen it and given it to his boyfriend. When I confronted them, his boyfriend didn't even know it wasn't Torin's, and Torin had told him it was his dad's. Pissed, I couldn't deal with this any longer, and since his dad wasn't home to deal with him, Martin's away on a business trip. I told him to pack his things and I dropped him off at his mom's house. His dad called an hour ago saying I was being too hard on him, and his mom thinks I'm overstepping and doing more than necessary. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I don't think this is an overreaction at all. His almost adult son has told you that he doesn't look at you as a stepmother or authority figure. You took him to someone who he does see that way. Please tell me you got the ring back. I don't think you went far enough. I would have gotten the police involved. P.S. Please keep that box of precious mementos secure in a safety deposit box or something, in case Torin decides to retaliate. I think it's better son has a lockbox/safe in his own room so he doesn't feel it's not his home, if that makes sense. Not being able to keep his father's things with him might make him start thinking about when he gets his own place, / stop thinking of where he is as a homely place he can relax. Obviously, living with someone who's bullying him is already a problem, but having to lock valuables away won't help. But at least he'll have them near him and be able to look whenever. Not today home. He stole your son's ring knowing it was important and gave it away to someone else. He is the a-hole. You didn't mistreat him, but sent him to his mother's place. It's not a harsh punishment at all to remove him so he doesn't bully your son. You have a right to hold him accountable as his guardian of the moment. If you are not his guardian, then you were also right to send him to his mom. You have more problems than his stealing and behavior if your husband doesn't think anything wrong happened, or that there shouldn't be any serious consequences for disrespecting his stepbrother. He doesn't respect or care about your son. Absolutely not the a-hole, but your husband is the a-hole for not stepping up and letting it get to this point. Your son should be just as much as his now, and him having to walk an hour and a half because his stepson forgot? Unacceptable. Should have had a very serious talk with him about responsibility then. Now he's stealing from his brother, prized possessions no less, causing him great distress and thinks it's okay to give them away? A line's been crossed, and right now your son needs you to be his advocate because who knows what else he's been putting up with from him, especially at school away from supervision. Even if it means pushing back against your husband. Really feel for the kid. Edit. Both his mom and dad think you're overreacting after he desecrated your late husband's belongings? Shows exactly where he's getting it from. Wouldn't move an inch on this until there's an apology and some serious changes. Otherwise, you've got bigger problems looming.